My session today is talking about Azure DevOps for Power Platform and Dynamics 365. So who's here works with Dynamics 365 or Power Platform? Can you just raise your hand? Perfect. And who's here more for the generic DevOps work? Okay. So today we're focusing on DevOps specifically for for Power Platform and Dynamics 365. But we'll talk a little bit more about the generic DevOps or pipeline and how to set up the Azure DevOps for the Power Platform. So my name is Mohamed Mostafa. I'm a Microsoft MVP. I've got one slide here just about myself. I'm not going to take you through all of it, but I'm a Microsoft MVP. I'm also the managing director of Tech Labs London. So Tech Labs London is a company, a startup that we started 2.5 years ago, and we are the team behind an ISV solution called iProperty Cloud, which is a solution that is targeting the property, real estate, and housing market. Why this is relevant? Because we're talking today about how we can automate the deployment and do the DevOps processes for ISVs working on Power Platform and Dynamics 365. I've been doing Microsoft Dynamics CRM, as it used to be called, or customer engagement, as it's called now. I've been doing it for more than 14 years now, since version 1.2. So it's kind of the core of my skills. So what we're going to talk about today is, the first thing is I wanted to give you just context and background of our solution and what we're trying to achieve using Azure DevOps. I also wanted to talk to you about the DevOps pipeline in general, but we're not going to go into, I mean, we've only got 20 minutes anyway, but we're not going to go into a lot of details around the DevOps pipeline specifically outside the context of Dynamics and Power Platform. We're trying to focus on the context of the Power Platform. We'll talk about the new DevOps build tools, which are our new tools for automating your deployments and managing your Azure DevOps for Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. Now, it's important here to mention that although the session is talking a lot about ISVs specifically, but that applies to any project, right? But the beauty of doing this with an ISVs or the ISV context, it means that if you have tens of different customers, you have a much more organized and automated process. So that part would apply whether it's Power Platform or Dynamics or any other product that you have as an ISV partner or ISV vendor, if you like. It will apply to you. We're going to talk about the solution deployment design, specifically around Dynamics and Power Platform, and also talk about the pipeline design. So let's go talk about the background and context. So the first thing is, as I mentioned, iProperty Cloud is not a horizontal solution. It's not an add-on. iProperty Cloud, and our case study today, if you like, is a vertical business solution. So that vertical business solution is for a specific industry. And the other context that is important to mention is that we're not just an ISV where we give our customer a package and say, here you go, this is your package, deploy it, and thanks very much, go and find another partner to help you with anything else. No, we actually deploy it for them, we extend it for them, we integrate it, we do the data migration, so we do the full package. So while we're an ISV partner, we actually do the full end-to-end implementation and extension and data migration and so on. So that goes into the point of we go way beyond our core solution. However, it's very important for us as a business to make sure that this core solution is managed and governed and we have a structured deployment process for all our customers. Because the worst nightmare for any ISV partner or any customer who's got got a product that is being sold to multiple customers, the nightmare would be you have a version for every single customer. Can you imagine if you've got 50 different customers, each one of them with their own version? It's an absolute nightmare, right? And I can see some people nodding, and I agree. I think that, hopefully you agree that many ISVs, especially in the kind of previous days, 10, 15 years ago, I've seen ISVs who have literally a version of their product for each and every customer. But what we're trying to achieve here is that we want to have one version for every customer with the ability to extend it further per customer while keeping that base. So that is the most important part, is that you still have your core solution, and that's why I put core in capital letters, is that we have a core solution, and then every customer can still have their own additional features and enhancements, but while keeping the core in its place. So that's the context. Now, if we talk about DevOps in general, the first thing you need to do with the new build task or build task tools for Power Platform is you need to install it. And the way to do this is very straightforward. You go to organization settings, extensions, search for the Power Apps build tools, and here's a screenshot of how you do it. Just make sure that you select the right version and the right Power Apps tool, and install it. It's really straightforward. What I'm trying to get to is actually the implementation of DevOps, the building of DevOps using the tools is absolutely straightforward. You wouldn't need any kind of complex scenarios to go and just install it, or to even use it, or to build it. And we'll see more about this now. But the difficulty and the complexity, 100%, is around the design. How are you going to design your pipeline is the most complex part. But the tools are pretty straightforward. And we'll see more about that in the next few slides. So, building up a new Azure DevOps pipeline, specifically for Power Apps or Power Platform, all you need to go and build a new build pipeline, just like you do any normal pipeline in Azure DevOps. You will get your kind of standard out-of-the-box agent job 1. You click on Add a Task. You get a search box. You type in Power App. Once you do that, you get a list of all the Power Apps that you would need to have, or you would want to use in your pipeline. There is about 15. There are 15 tasks, and we'll see some of these today. But they are very straightforward, and your typical tasks that you would use in Power Platform and in Dynamics 365. Again, the build is very simple. You literally select the task, you click Add. You select the next task, you click Add, and the pipeline gets built up for you based on the order of how you want your pipeline to work. So, as I said, the actual build of the pipeline is really straightforward. There is nothing complex about it. And with the tasks, you can do a lot of things. The complexity is what we're going to be talking about, is how you design that. So, here are the 15 tasks that we currently have on this version. This is version 0.1.6. So this is how you find it on Azure Marketplace, on Visual Studio Marketplace. And the tasks are, you can set a solution version, you can create an environment, you can delete an environment, you can update an environment, you can pack a solution, unpack a solution, import a solution, copy an environment, run a Power App checker, deploy a package, and you can also run Power App Who Am I to make sure that, to find out which user is actually running the pipeline. So very straightforward, 15 tasks. Could allow you to do pretty much anything you would want to have. So I would say probably 70 to 80% of what you want to have in a Power App, a Power Platform, Dynamics 365 pipeline, you can have it using those build tasks. But the challenge is designing that solution. And that's what we want to talk a little bit more about today. So, for those who are familiar with Dynamics and Power Platform, how many solutions would you have as an ISV partner? Would you have just one solution where you have everything in it? Or would you have 10, 15, 20 solutions? And why? And why would you have you have them all as managed, or you have them all as unmanaged? That's all part of the design decisions that you need to be making as part of your pipeline design. Would you have one solution for all your customers, or would you have a solution for each and every customer with their own version? Other questions, you know, just like with Dynamics 365, you've got the Dynamics 365 base, but you can go and add customer service, you can go and add field service, you can install it, uninstall it, you can do all of this within your Dynamics environment. So would you want to have each part of your solution to be a separate solution, or would you have them all in one big solution? So these are all important questions when you starting to think how you design your whole ALM story. So how about customers who want to do their own configuration in the future? So you've done your solution, you deployed it, but your customers want to continue to add their components and extend the Dynamics solution or the Power Platform solution. What would you do in that case, and what would you let them to do? So let's talk about our story, our design. Now, this could work for many people, and hopefully it will kind of satisfy many of the situations, but there will be situations where you want to design it slightly different. So in our case, iProperty Cloud, we literally have two solutions. Two Dynamics 365 or Power Platform solutions. One solution is core, which is basically a configuration. Every configuration, every form, every field, only the ones that we've created are added to this unmanaged solution, or are added to this solution. And every custom piece of code, whether there are plugins, custom workflows, custom actions, they are all in another solution. So we literally have two solutions. One is CRM and one is XRM, as we call it. And those two solutions are the core of every customer of ours. Now think about it. If we have 50 different customers, we deploy the same two solutions for all 50 customers, and using Azure DevOps, we automate that deployment. And every time there is a new version, there is a new bug release, we're fixing some bugs, we're adding we're making some changes, adding more features. All we need to do is we run the same pipeline for the 50 customers to update their core solution. That wouldn't affect the changes, the differences, the deltas that each customer would have on their own environment, but it means they're all on the same version of our solution, and they're all benefiting from all our enhancements. Couldn't do this before Azure DevOps, right? Because otherwise we would have to manually go and install those the updates, our core solution updates on 50 different customers. Think about those who work with SMC. They might have 300, 400 different customers. It's almost impossible to manage all of them. And that's where they end up with having lots and lots of different versions and very difficult to manage. So one of the features, or one of the advantages, in my view, of the build tasks for Power Platform is that it allows us to move from just thinking enterprise to move into the medium kind of size customers, as well as the small businesses. So the SMC market, as Microsoft calls it. Because previously, within the SMC market, if you got 200 customers, you can't really do an installation for all of them, and then, or a deployment for all of them, and then a continuous improvement for each and every one of them manually. It's almost impossible. The other thing is very important is that your core solution must be 100% independent on any other solution. So our CRM config solution, we said we have two. The CRM config solution is completely independent. We don't add any system fields or system forms or system views from Dynamics or from Power Platform to it. We don't add anything other than our own customizations of the solution. Even the out-of-the-box system forms, we don't use them. We create our own forms. And for contacts, for example, let's say out-of-the-box contact form, we create our own form, we make our own customizations onto it, and only that form goes into our solution. This way, we can go on any environment, and we can install our solution without any dependencies, 100%. So that is really important as part of your design of the bigger ALM story, that you have this kind of ability to be completely independent on other components. And then what we have, on top of the two main solutions, we have additional modules that not all our customers want to have. So all our customers would have the core two solutions that we mentioned, but they might want to have repairs. Some of them might want to have the repairs solution, or the facilities management solution, or the property management solution, and some of them don't. So what we do is we have additional solutions that sit on top of those two solutions if they want it or not. So based on what they want, we can have those additional solutions as optional additions. What we do is we 100% deploy our two core solutions, the CRM config and XRM. We have to deploy them as managed for every single customer. Now, there are different schools of thought around this, but I would confidently say that a Microsoft recommendation is that if you're deploying to production, it has to be managed. I would go further to say, if you are an ISV, every single one of your customers should have your solution managed, and not just if your customer has a dev environment, test environment, training, live, your solution has to go there managed in each and every one of them. Why? For many reasons. Number one is there is an element of IP protection that the managed solution can give you. Not a lot, but there is. But more importantly, it means you can run your pipeline, update all your example of 50 customers, because they're all on the same managed solution at the same version, as you will see in our design of the pipeline using the build tools. So, important things to note is, don't build 15, 20 different solutions for your core solution. Just make sure you minimize that. In our case, we minimize it into two main solutions. You deploy your solution managed. if you have an additional optional kind of modules, you can have that as separate solution, but don't overdo it because it will be difficult to manage in the future. And in addition to all of this, in our case, we actually have two versions of our solution. We have a version that is for Dynamics 365 environments, and we have a version for the Power Platform CDS-only environments. Now, the majority of our customers would want to have the Dynamics 365 functionality and capabilities, SLAs, case management, sales, processes, and so on. But there are customers who are really focused on very specific target kind of experience, if you like, in which case CDS-only instances would work. So in that case, what we do is we have two versions of our solution. One version is for Dynamics, one version for CDS only, which means we have two pipelines, one for Dynamics and one for those customers who would go for the Power Platform only or CDS only. Every time, obviously, and that's kind of just best practice, and I'm sure a lot of people already know this, always make sure that you update your version every time before you export it. You export your solution to make sure that every time you're deploying the next version of your managed solution. And the reason I'm mentioning this is as part of your build tools tasks, you can have a task that set the solution version as part of your pipeline. So let's talk then about the actual pipeline design. So we talked about the generic, kind of the high-level ALM story of a Dynamics or Power Platform ISV, how we're actually going to design our pipeline. We've got a number of examples, but let's go with the first first pipeline design one, and that's where you have a single new customer. So we have a one pipeline. Every time you win a new customer, you press a button, you literally set up this new customer using this pipeline. So in that case, we use the pipeline to create an environment, dev environment, test environment, production environment if you want, as part of your pipeline using the create environment task. We export the solution. Now, there are different options here. We export our solution from our core instance. We export that solution using the pipeline, and we deploy it straight into the new dev environment that we created or test or whatever, and we deploy as managed, as I mentioned. And that's part of the options of the import solution, that you can export it as managed and import it as managed to obviously to your customers. Now, there is another option, obviously, which you could go and do this from your source control, whether it's GitHub or TFS or VSTS. But we have chosen to do this directly out of our core instance. Why? Because as part of our, as you can see, as part of our design, we anyway take a backup of that solution and we check it into our source control. So we still have a backup of it, but we like to take the fresh new kind of unmanaged solution, or sorry, the fresh new solution out of our environment, our core environment, into every single customer, because it means we're not going to miss anything, right? I don't want to get a managed solution that is 2 days old, and you know what, we've missed the latest kind of 2 fields that we added in the past couple of days, just for example. So we take it directly from the core instance, we import it as managed to the customer instance, and then we do all our kind of additional processes. Additional processes can be a variety of things. You can do, obviously, check in into TFS, you can set the solution version, you can run some command lines, obviously the wider DevOps, Azure DevOps tasks, you can run quite a few of these to do some additional tasks. You can have that pipeline for every new customer. Now, you could think, if we go down into the SMC market, where you're having 2-3 new subscriptions to your project, to your solution every day, your ISV solution. Could be that you've got an SMC kind of type of product. In which case, the same pipeline could work for every new customer, right? So you run the same pipeline for every customer. Now, you could go further. And that's where we'll probably come back to going further in a minute, but that's where, if you are a CSP direct, you can even go further, that you do the whole thing automated 100% without even anyone touching anything. So you could provision the Office 365 tenant environment if you are a CSP direct partner, because you've got access to the APIs. Then you can go and run your pipeline, and everything else is done for you. You can allocate licenses, you can buy licenses, allocate it to users, create a global admin user, and then run the pipeline, and the whole thing is automated. So you could be in bed literally sleeping, and customers go on your website, purchase one license from your ISV solution, and everything is automated. The tenant is created, the license is purchased, allocated to one global user, for example. The environment is created, and your customer already got access to your application. So you can automate the whole thing. Previously, you could automate everything up to obviously the creation of the environment and the creation of the Dynamics 365 instances and deployment of solutions, unless you write custom code. But now you can do all of this as part of the build tools. So second design, another example. That's where if I have 50 customers and every week we have a new release, we have new features. So we have a product development team, we have a product development roadmap, we have sprints. Every 2 weeks we have new features, new enhancements added to our solution. So how would we do that? With this kind of build tasks and build tools, what we can do is every time a new customer is signed up, we literally create a new build task to deploy our latest version into our pipeline, to deploy our latest version into that customer as well. So let's start from the top. First, you always have to start with the Power Apps tool installer, which is a mandatory first task. But then we export our core solution, just like we did with a new customer. The difference then is we import the solution multiple times. Every time a new customer is added, so one instance, customer for one instance, customer 2 instance, customer 3 instance, and you keep on repeating this for your 50 customers. So tomorrow you get customer 51, you go and create a new build task to deploy the latest version into this customer. The advantage is all your customers are in exactly the same version. All your customers are getting the same updates, and you can even, obviously, you can do that at whatever time you think is right. So you can do that daily if you want to, if you're really doing that, or you can do it weekly. You can do it at the end of every sprint. If your sprints are 2 weeks or if your sprints are 4 weeks, you can do that. It's really as frequent as your product development cycle works. Now this is, think about this. Take a moment and think about this. This is a massive problem for ISVs who did not have this kind of capability before. It means that, like many other ISVs, and I know currently some big ISVs, they literally email you a managed solution and say, hey, we have a new version, please install it. They don't know if you installed it, they don't know if you received that email. If they got 200 customers, 300 customers, they have no idea who is on which version. But with that, you have more control over all your customers, making sure they're all on the latest version. It means the bug fixing is a lot easier. It means that you know what's happening in every environment. You can obviously thoroughly test this across all your, all the new features. You test all of them before you deploy it to your environment. Right. I'm going to have to kind of run quickly because I think we're a couple of minutes over time. So at a high level, this is what the design is. You've got the core instance, you go into customer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way, you deploy into source control. But what other ideas can you do? There is loads more that you can do with the pipeline build tools for Power Platform and Dynamics. So what else? You could do your customer patches. You can do a pipeline per localized version. Think about it. In our case, our solution is international. Obviously, we've got a lot of focus on the UK market, but we have customers in Europe, and we're opening up in the Middle East as well. So we would literally have a different version of our product, or a localized version of our product, in each region or each market. So we can have a pipeline for customers in Europe, we can have a pipeline for customers in the UK, and we can have a pipeline for customers in Middle East, because each one of them has a different solution. You can also do it by data centers. So it could be that you have a pipeline for those customers who are in CRM4 data center, or CRM11 or CRM data center, basically US, UK, or Europe, and so on. You can even go and use the same thing for your internal operations, which is obviously what you would typically do in any project, is you will have the promotion from dev to test, to UAT, to pre-prod, to production. All of these processes can be automated with the Azure DevOps build tasks. Now with that, I think I've got to the end of my time. I'm sorry if we didn't have time for questions, but I'm more than happy to wait here, and if anyone has any questions around what we've done and how we've done it, I'm more than happy to. Otherwise, by all means, please get connected. You can follow me on Twitter, or you can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active on LinkedIn as well. If you want to message me or if you want to talk this further, I'm more than happy to do this. Thanks very much.